Welcome, everybody, to Survive in Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your co-host for Survive in Advance, Mike Goodpaster. And right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Steve Risley.
Merry Christmas Eve, everybody.
What's wrong, Grant? Shit, are you mad because I didn't talk about the night? See, I figured this. By now, everybody knows what you've done. There's no reason to even say it anymore.
I agree entirely.
All right, and next up, we got a man who in 2011 won the New Jersey Fantasy Football League Championship. Help me welcome to the show, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
Well, I'm doing good. I'm actually coming off of a championship win this weekend, so I'm pretty happy about that.
I didn't see the news reported, though, so I couldn't announce it, and you didn't tell me.
I mean, it's not official yet, but it might as well be official.
All right. Why isn't it official yet?
Because there's still one more game tonight, but it's meaningless. I think I have an 80-point cushion.
You're just a bad dude. That's why you can hear Anthony on the Fantasy Face-Off, or FF Face-Off, on thegruelingtruth.net, or also on YouTube. So if you want somebody that knows about fantasy football, it's Anthony. And next year, I think that we're probably going to have a fantasy football league, so me and Steve can beat you at that like we did on the picking the games.
I only had one shot at picking games against you guys.
You only get one shot. I mean, there's so many people that want to take that shot. There's so many people that want to go down as legends. And we're like to the final week of the season, and me and Steve have won almost every week. And we've won every week. And this last week, I won, where I only missed 2 games against Steve. And I beat you and your buddy Pete Oliver. Or is that his name? What was his last name? Steve.
You talking to me? Pete Quinn.
Pete Quinn. I never can get his name straight. And it's not because I hate Purdue, because I only hate the University of Kentucky. But I just wanted to bring up that you can get within 1 game tonight if Oakland pulls the upset. But if they don't, I will have beaten you by 3 games. Let's start off. We'll talk about last night first. Because last night, I think, was one of the games of the year, if not the game of the year. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Kansas City Chiefs 38-31. And I've watched football for a long time, Anthony, and those 2 quarterbacks played at about as high a level as you'll ever see.
Yeah, it doesn't really get much better than the game we saw last night. And I think the most overrated or most underrated aspect of it was how the 2 running backs played on both sides, Damian Williams and Chris Carson. Yeah, as far as Mahomes and Wilson, they played phenomenal football last night. Mahomes, isn't he 0-4 in primetime games this year?
I have no clue. Is
I
don't think they've lost any primetime.
I saw that or heard that.
They did beat the Bengals in primetime, though.
Well.
All right, Steve, what do you think of the game?
Yeah, it's a fun game to watch. I mean, it really wasn't that significant to me because, you know, I mean, it was a great game. 2 great quarterbacks going at it. Fun football game. Enjoyed it.
All right. Would we look at this? I think this, Anthony, when I look at this, I think the Seahawks team is a dangerous team going into the playoffs. I mean, they can run the ball. Their defense is much better. You've got Russell Wilson, who I think is the best quarterback in the NFL, and I've been saying it since the start of the year, and you guys ragged me on it. But when you look at this, if they go to Dallas, I like their chances there, and I think this is the one team going to New Orleans. I think this is the team that would have the best chance in the NFC.
Yeah, and we talked about this off air earlier. I think we both like the Seahawks a lot because of Russell Wilson's experience, and I like the fact that now he has more than Doug Baldwin. He has Tyler Lockett. He has a lot of speed on the outside with Tyler Lockett. He has a couple complementary wide receivers, and even at running back behind Chris Carson. It seems like no matter whether it's Carson, Penny, or even Mike Davis, the running backs producing this offense. And these 2 teams, you bring up the Cowboys, they played earlier in the season, back in Week 3 at Seattle. I'm pretty sure Seattle did win that game.
Yeah,
but
Seattle,
if
I think they beat them by double digits.
It's going to be in Dallas.
Yeah, but that's not going to matter because you still got Russell Wilson.
The difference in that game,
Garrett.
Russell Wilson wasn't playing all too well earlier in the year. It was the Earl Thomas interception. That was the difference in the game when Earl Thomas shoved it in Jerry Jones' face for not trading for him.
Yeah, when you look at it, how big a threat do you think the Seahawks are, Steve?
Not that big a threat. I think that you're relying solely on a quarterback, really, that is carrying most bulk of the load for this team offensively. And, it's so dependent on if Russell Wilson has a bad game or somebody sets a good defense up against him. I think they're fun to watch. It's a good story. Pete Carroll's always dangerous as a coach, but I don't see them as being a threat.
All right. No matter what you say, Anthony, Russell Wilson in the game threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 16 for 26. Chris Carson ran for over 100 yards. It was a 24-13 game that I don't think was as close as the score would. Or I think it was a bigger difference than the score when you watched that game, because wasn't it like 17-3 at the half?
You're talking about the Dallas one from earlier in the year?
Yeah.
Or last night's game?
The Dallas game from earlier in the year.
Yeah. I remember it as being a close game, and at the end when Dallas was trying to rally back, Earl Thomas picked the ball up.
Now, when we look at the Chiefs, Steve, the thing that concerns me here is they beat the Chargers at the start of the year. They beat the Steelers at the start of the year. Lost to the Patriots. But when you look at them over the last few weeks, this is Andy Reid's M.O. They lost last night to the Seahawks. They lost at home to the Chargers. They barely beat the Ravens. They barely beat the Raiders. And they lost to the Rams. So they're 2-3 in their last 5 games. Is this kind of what's to be expected with Andy Reid coach?
Well,
teams?
I think that's the bigger story than the Seahawks and the Chiefs starting to fade again, as they historically seem to do every season, and to where they become a non-factor in the playoffs after posting a good regular season record. And the last 2 or 3 games, they've not looked like they did the first 2 or 3 games, and they continue to slide. And I can't blame it all on Mahomes because he continues to put up big numbers. But yeah, I just think it's a pattern that this football organization has every year. Maybe it's an Andy Reid pattern, I don't know, but here we go again.
Well, it was the Andy Reid pattern in Philadelphia too, if I remember right, wasn't it, Anthony?
Yeah. Andy Reid seemed to get all the blame, and in really the years he would dominate, and then once he got to the end of the year, he would drop a couple games, and in the playoffs, he would just never get over the hump with Don McNabb in Philly. And now in Kansas City, you can't really blame this on Kareem Hunt because the running backs after him have been putting up numbers, especially Damian Williams. I mean, the only player that really hasn't performing, Tyreek Hill, it seems like he's been a little bit invisible in the past couple of games, and maybe that is on Mahomes a little bit.
All right, next up, let's go to the AFC South, where you've got the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts, who will Sunday night decide the division winner. The Tennessee Titans yesterday beat the Washington Redskins 25-16. Marcus Mariota played really well, 10 for 13, 110 yards, but he got injured. Blaine Gabbert came in, was 7 for 11 for 101 yards and a touchdown. Can this team, if Blaine Gabbert has to play, Anthony, can they beat the Colts in a one-and-done game?
I don't think so.
Can they with Marcus Mariota?
I don't even think they can get past the Colts with Marcus Mariota. I mean,
right.
The Colts, they came back from a deficit yesterday, no? The Giants had a pretty good lead in that game.
Well, the Redskins actually had the lead on the Titans, too, going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but the Redskins don't pose the same threat to me right now as the Giants do in terms of offense and having to go toe-to-toe.
What I'd worry about here with the Titans is I don't think they've really got a shot unless Mariota's playing. Even if they do, I think the Colts are the better team, Steve. My concern if I'm the Colts is being able to stop that running game with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, the Colts defense definitely looked vulnerable Sunday. But I think this is a toss-up game because I think there's inconsistency in both teams, and we saw what the Colts did against the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple weeks ago, not being able to score and losing 6-0. Tennessee is up and down. Mariota is definitely a key, and Blaine Gabbert. And the Colts defense looks more vulnerable this week than they have, and they've won 8 of 9 games. It's the most vulnerable their defense looked, though, to an aging quarterback who still has talent. But I think this game's just it's who shows up that night. I mean, I think this game can go either way. It's playing at home for Tennessee is obviously an advantage. I think the Colts are a little stronger team, but I mean, it's going to be a fun game to watch. I mean, I know who I'm rooting for, obviously, but I hate to pick this game.
Yeah, when I look at
you
this,
don't know which Titans team's going to show up.
Yeah, but the thing that would make me feel better,
going to show up.
The thing that would make me feel better if I'm you, though, with Darius Leonard there stopping to run, Saquon Barkley only averaged 2 yards a carry the other day. They lost the game because they were giving up the passing yardage, and with Tennessee, I would think, Anthony, the way to beat Tennessee is to take away the run and make Mariota or Blaine Gabbert beat you throwing, and I think that's something that the Colts are completely capable of doing.
Yeah, I agree. I was looking at the box score from Sunday's game with Saquon Barkley, and then you even go back. Who did the Colts play? Ezekiel Elliott 2 weeks ago, and they were able to contain him too. This run defense led by Darius Leonard, who can. I mean, everybody's talking about Derwin James. I think Leonard deserves to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation along with him because of the impact he's making. Especially in the past 2 games, I think he scored a touchdown in back-to-back games, or at least had a big turnover. This Colts defense is for real. But on the other side with Derrick Henry, we're seeing the Tennessee Titans finally give Derrick Henry the touches that they were always dispersing to DeMarco Murray or Deion Lewis. I think he's going to be a handful to contain. This could be I see this game either going as a blowout in Indy's side, but if it's close, I think Tennessee wins it.
Yeah,
I don't think the Colts pull out a close game. If it's close, it's going to be Tennessee. If it's a blowout, it's Indy.
I think the good thing about this game is these are 2 coaches that both belong in the conversation for Coach of the Year. I still think Matt Nagy's the guy I would give it to because I think that team winning 11 games is kind of mind-blowing still, especially when you look at what people thought at the start of the year. The Colts and Titans, I think, are kind of surprised, but the Titans were a playoff team last year. But I think Vrabel's really came in and changed that culture. When I look at the Colts, though, and you talk about Darius Leonard, why couldn't he be the Defensive Player of the Year? I think he's that good. I think he's played that well. Anybody?
I think it's the fact that the Colts have not been a power all season long, and that's going to hurt him in terms of voting and things like that. I mean, the Colts made a strong run, late in the season to get where they are now, and we still don't even know if the Colts are going to make the playoffs yet. So,
all right,
I think that's going to hurt his voting.
Well, I think this, though. I think if you're just going with the best defensive player, I think it's hard to find one better than the way he's played this year, Anthony.
Sure, but we know that's not how these awards are handed out and picked. I mean, we know that Drew Brees is heir apparent to the MVP, and I'm not sure right now he's the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, well, Drew Brees has had one of the 3 best seasons of any quarterback in the NFL, probably the best.
Sure.
Him and Mahomes and Russell Wilson.
And he's going to get it, and deservedly so. So, but, I mean, yeah, but these awards are as much popularity contests as they're anything. You got to be in the right market, the right franchise, the right fan base. There's a lot else that goes into those things than just having the best year of any athlete.
Huh. All right.
Drew Brees is a wonderful story. He's 40 years old and setting records in the NFL. And, that's a great story, and that's a great sell for the NFL. And I'm not saying Drew Brees doesn't deserve it.
Well, who deserves it? Do you
think
he deserves it, or do you think somebody else should get it?
No. I mean, I think there are other people should be considered equally as long as he is, but I think it's going to be a runaway for Drew Brees.
I think there's only 3 that can be considered equally, and that's Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, and Drew Brees. I mean, I think it's those 3. And then I think once you get past 3, I think there's a drop-off where I would put Andrew Luck. Well, I'd put Oliver there because he's been on our show. Andrew hasn't. But I think Andrew Luck, I would put it 4th, make him the comeback player of the year. Who would be your MVP right now, Anthony?
I think I would have to give it to Drew Brees. As well as Pat Mahomes has played, I think the fact that Mahomes has fallen off a little bit with the wins. He's still putting up the numbers, but they lost a couple of games here. And where Drew Brees, except for yesterday, the 4 games leading up to yesterday's win, Brees didn't even pass for over 205 yards. And the Saints were, they won 3 out of 4 of those games.
Okay, my take is this. I think Russell Wilson should be the MVP. I think he does more with less. I think this. I think when you look at Andrew Luck, Patrick Mahomes, and Drew Brees, the one thing that stands out to me is I think all three of them have offensive lines that are in the top five. And I think it's very possible with Luck and Brees that you have maybe the two best offensive lines in football. I think Russell Wilson makes throws nobody else makes. And if you look at these numbers, 34 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 112.7, they play a different style also than what a Kansas City plays or even in New Orleans or in Indianapolis, where they're trying to run the ball, play a little defense, and let Russell Wilson beat you. I think Russell Wilson's the most underrated quarterback in the NFL, Steve, and I don't understand why he's not even brought up in this conversation. And also, I'll give you this, too. I don't know why Andrew Luck's not brought up in this conversation, because to me, those four guys stand heads and shoulders above everybody else.
I agree. I think your comments on Russell Wilson are smart and accurate. I think he's done more with less than even Andrew Luck has. And, and I've got to admit some bias to Andrew Luck, obviously, because I'm a huge Colts fan. Much like, and he's a huge Cowboys fan. So you're always going to play bias that way. But I have to say that I think probably the person who's been most valuable to their team this year and the success that they're having is Russell Wilson. But like I said, it's a popularity contest, and Drew Brees, like I said, he's the poster child for the NFL right now. I mean, he's, like I said, he's 40. He's had a problem. You can't deny Drew Brees' year.
No.
You can't take it away. It's just a weird year.
Stats-wise, he's the best guy this year.
Right. I agree. Mike, we had this kind of Twitter conversation last night or text conversation, and we were jawing around about it. But in the end, I say if I had a vote and I had to cast a vote right now, I'd vote Drew Brees. And I don't think it'd be a bad vote. And
it is what I said at the start of the year. Y'all said it was nuts, and you probably still think that. But Aaron Rodgers will never be.
Well, we always
good.
think you're nuts, Mike. That has nothing to do with anything.
Rodgers.
We think you're always nuts.
Aaron Rodgers will never be as good as Russell Wilson. He just never will.
I think Aaron Rodgers was yesterday's news. Like I said, he's now.
I can't wait till next season.
Why's that?
When Aaron Rodgers bounces back and
Aaron Rodgers, what's he bouncing back from? He's had a great year this year.
What's he bouncing back from?
You're talking about Aaron Rodgers like he has 1 foot in the grave.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about this. I think Aaron Rodgers at his best is not as good as Russell Wilson at his best. I'll take Russell Wilson any day because I think this. I think the most important part to being a great quarterback, and Drew Brees has this, Andrew Luck has this, and Russell Wilson has this. We don't know about Mahomes yet, but that is the ability to lead a football team. And I think Aaron Rodgers, I'm against Mike McCarthy, but the more I look at this and the more I talk to people that played with him, Aaron Rodgers, I think that Aaron Rodgers is a me-first guy. I don't think he puts the team first.
He's always been a me-first guy.
I think that any other team with a real head coach, Aaron Rodgers would not be playing right now because it's a waste of time to play him, especially at his age. I think Aaron Rodgers runs this shit. I think Aaron Rodgers is like LeBron James and Michael Jordan. I think he is the coach of the team.
Absolutely is. I like that comp a lot. About his control over a franchise.
This is the thing, though. If he is, then you can't put him up there with the greats. I don't think Tom Brady or Joe Montana told their head coaches what to do. And if they did, their head coaches would have told them to go to hell. And I just think when it gets down to it, Drew Brees, Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson are all three guys that lead their team. They don't just worry about their own numbers. And if you watch it, Drew Brees is a guy, Dan Marino, when he played, everybody talked about, he was the greatest passer of all time, but he was not a leader. And when it came down to it, if you would have offered him to have a great running back, he'd have probably turned it down because he wanted to throw the ball. He was worried about his numbers. Drew Brees has proven over the last couple of years when they got Kamara and they got Ingram and they got all these running backs and the defense got better, they've changed the way they've played. And he's been fine with that. And you look at Andrew Luck. Drew Brees for his career, Andrew Luck for his career, have played with lesser teams. And they have won more than what most do with more teams. The Green Bay Packers, the talent there is not terrible. But you know what?
This year he hasn't had much because there was a lot of injuries and some player turnover.
All right, now, even with that being said, coming into this season, you thought the Packers would win their division, correct? Or you thought they'd be a playoff team?
I thought they would be in the mix. I thought that was going to be a tougher division than it actually was.
What was your honest opinion of the Seattle Seahawks coming into this season? Because I'll admit, when me and Steve did our preseason show, I said they'd win 6 games because Russell Wilson was good enough to win them 6, but the talent and the coaching was so bad I didn't think he'd be able to win more than that.
My honest opinion, and I said this dating back to last year, that I thought that there was going to be a big decline in the Seahawks just because of their defense. They're getting older, player turnover, and I thought this team was going to be a last-place team.
All right, so when we talked about the Chiefs coming into this year, what do you think?
Because of Andy Reid, I thought that it was going to be them or the Chargers, and I think I actually picked the Chiefs to win the division just because of their talent and Andy Reid more so than Pat Mahomes, because nobody saw Pat Mahomes becoming this, I don't think.
Now, what did you think with the Saints coming into this year?
Division winner.
All right, so when we look at what you thought and what has occurred, how could Russell Wilson not be the MVP?
I mean, you have a fair point, but is he putting up the numbers? Because MVP, a lot of the times, it's all good to be a leader and this and that, but you need to have the numbers.
Let's do this.
And that's what he's lacking between Drew Brees and compared to Drew Brees and Pat Mahomes.
Wait a second.
Compared to Drew
What's
Brees
better?
and Pat Mahomes.
What would you rather have, 48 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, or 35 and 6?
I'd rather have Wilson's numbers.
Okay.
Total touchdowns is still 50 total touchdowns.
He's thrown 48 touchdown passes. That's from the NFL.com right now.
He's
also thrown twice as many interceptions. Andrew Luck, I think, if Luck's interception total, Steve, was under 10, I would put him number 2 behind Wilson because I don't think too many people thought the Colts would do what they were going to do this year. But when I looked back, when we had this discussion on Twitter last night, Steve, is when I looked it up. You go back to 2001, and there hasn't been a quarterback to win MVP that threw more than 10 interceptions in a season. And I think the interception number is a killer there. I also think the Jacksonville Jaguar game was the real killer. Because it's just like if Notre Dame has a guy that's a Heisman candidate, let's do it like this. Carson Palmer, USC against Notre Dame. Carson Palmer was like the second or third pick to be the MVP going into the last game. Last game, he blows it up, throws 6 or 7 touchdown passes against Notre Dame. He wins the damn Heisman. So I think one game can kill you like that. Breeze had a bad game against the Cowboys, but the Cowboys' defense, I think, is better than the Jaguars. And, Drew Brees didn't get shut out. He still had a chance to win the game at the end. So I think when you look at this and you look at the expectations.
Hang on now. But in that case, Luck had the ball on about the 20-yard line, and all I needed to do was throw a touchdown pass, and Vinatieri kicked the extra point, and they win that game 7-6.
Okay. Did he throw that touchdown pass?
He got picked.
He got
picked on a flipped-up pass, I think it was, or something.
What's a flipped-up pass? You mean tipped?
So he was making another drive. He threw the pick. So, but, I mean, like Breeze had a chance to win that game. Luck had a chance to win that game too. It wasn't like they were getting blown out.
Yeah, but
he was one play away from being.
How long ago was that game on Andrew Luck?
3
that
weeks.
Was
killer. 2 or 3 weeks.
It was Jaguars, Cowboys, and then Giants. So it was 3 games ago.
It was the game right before the Cowboys.
No,
I think that's what killed
it was Jaguars, Houston, Cowboys.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because they beat Houston. So about 3 weeks ago.
He comes back and beats the Houston Texans in Houston.
And through 2 interceptions.
I mean, that's got to be worth as much positive as negative losing to the Jaguars, who we've all said was a good football team except for a shit quarterback.
So, Steve, 36 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, or 34 touchdowns, 6 interceptions? What's the better year?
No, I'm going with Drew Brees. I mean, I said that. I agree.
Drew Brees. Drew Brees is 32 and 6.
Well, I think
they're 32 and 5.
I think the true MVP is probably Russell Wilson. Is going to go to Drew Brees.
Yeah, and I've got no problem with that because Drew Brees deserves it. It's not supposed.
Right.
And this is the thing. And it's not because he's never won one that he deserves it. He deserves it because his team's been that good. He's been that good. And the other problem with Andrew Luck is this. You can't really put him in the conversation unless they win this week and he plays well.
Right, yeah. If the Colts lose, then it's totally, yeah, exactly. The Colts are not in the playoffs. Everybody else we're talking about is in the playoffs.
All right,
and the Colts
let's go ahead.
So
and
it's not a big debate. It's
it's
a passionate debate because I'm a Colts fan. That's why but it's not a smart debate.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Do you at all knock Drew Brees for the way he's played down the stretch here in December? Before yesterday, throwing one touchdown in back-to-back games and fewer than 200 yards, 205 yards in three straight. Plus interceptions. He's turned about 4 turnovers in the past 5 games.
Can I address that real quick, Mike? Mike, can I just address that real quickly?
Go ahead.
Here's my answer to that, Anthony. Champions find a way. And the Saints have the best record in football. They're a championship caliber team, and Drew Brees does what he has to do to win football games. And I think if you're going to have a most valuable player, that doesn't mean you're the most statistically best player. That's the best offensive player of the year. But for the most valuable player, he found ways to win games when he wasn't playing well.
Yeah,
Andrew Luck couldn't get that done, and Russell Wilson couldn't get that done to the extent that Drew Brees did. That's why Drew Brees is your MVP. So they're 14-2 or 13-2.
I agree with that because of this. If you
and with him playing mediocre in the last 2 or 3 games, they're still winning football games.
And he doesn't lose them the game, and he's usually not the reason that they're losing.
He doesn't lose them the game.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not even really an argument. I like your comments on Russell Wilson. I think that in terms of finding a player that means more to a football team than any one player in the NFL this year, it's probably Russell Wilson. Then it's probably Andrew Luck. Drew Brees has a great team and coach around him.
I don't think so. I think my main reason for giving this to him is this. Outside of Michael Thomas and the 2 running backs, he doesn't have a ton of wide receivers.
Bingo.
Okay, yeah, and
I think him and Luck are a lot alike like that.
Neither does Luck.
I know, that's what I was just saying. I think him and Luck both. Good. Yeah, him and Luck both, that is a huge difference for those two. Because
I'm going to tell you what, you're going to be talking about the Colts for the next 2 or 3 years. And you're going to be talking about the Cleveland Browns for the next 2 or 3 years.
No, we're not.
But you're going to be talking about the Colts in the mix for Super Bowl again in the next 2 or 3 years. They've got a $118 million salary cap.
Steve, we're not.
They got a ton of money to spend.
Steve,
and
so you think, wait a second. Okay, you're a homer right now, but this is what I'm going to tell you. As long as Andrew Luck is there, they're a Super Bowl contender. Just like as long as Russell Wilson's where he's at, they're a Super Bowl contender. As long as Brees and Brady are healthy, they're Super Bowl contenders. So don't give me 2 or 3 years.
Right.
This is the next 10 years wherever Andrew Luck is because he's that good. They're always going to be in the playoff conversation.
Right.
I mean,
this is the thing. Not just playoff
Luck, when's the last time Luck played a full healthy year where they weren't in a chance to go to the playoffs? Has it ever happened?
I don't know that he ever has.
No, I don't either. The one year where they went 7-9, he was hurt for most of that season. If you remember, he comes back. They're 2-6 at the time, and they end up 7-9. So he's that good that the Colts are always going to be in the conversation as long as he's healthy. So that's a good thing if you're a Colts fan. Same thing if you're a Seahawks fan, because I really thought the Seahawks would not be that good this year.
I think that both the Seahawks and the Colts are the 2 biggest surprise teams of the NFL, along with the Bears.
I think the Bears. are. The Colts I expected. I mean, and you can't tell me I didn't. Okay, remember, I told you as long as you got Andrew Luck.
You had more optimism at the beginning of the year than I did. I give you credit for that.
Yeah, and that's what gives me what I think about Russell Wilson now. It's just that they're the kind of guys.
We're not disagreeing with you.
To win. Doesn't matter.
You're beating a dead horse here, partner.
Yeah, I want to because I just wanted to prove that I was right. I want you to repeat it a lot.
It doesn't matter. It's going to go. It's going to go to Drew Brees, but
and it should.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we kind of got an idea of the NFC. We pretty well think it's going to probably be either the Rams or most likely the Saints going to the Super Bowl.
I don't think there's a chance that it's the Rams. I think it's the Saints or the Seahawks.
All right. Well, I'm just throwing another name out there to say, I'm trying to create a pattern here real quick. But the AFC, is there any favorite anymore in the AFC? It seems like any one of the teams from the AFC that gets in can go to the Super Bowl. There's no one clear-cut favorite anymore. The Chiefs have fallen. The Seahawks are flying. If the Colts get in, they're playing good all of a sudden. The Ravens showed the incredible defense last game. Chargers are kind of flailing all over the place.
How are they flailing?
We don't know what to expect. I'm not done yet. We don't know what to expect of the Patriots anymore. Is there one team in the AFC that you think is like, man, I would bet on this team? Or are you just like, it's the most wide-open AFC representation we've had in a long time, Anthony?
No, I do think it's wide open, and I was thinking about even a team like the Ravens. They're getting hot at the right time. They're running the ball really well. They have a couple of running backs. Their quarterbacks. He's not going to win you a game, but I don't really see him losing it. What my worry is with Lamar Jackson. My issue with Lamar Jackson is the fact that I don't think he can go and win him a game. I don't think he'll lose it, but I don't think he can win one either. I still need to see it. But the good thing for the Ravens, they have Joe Flacco, who's been there before. And they have the coach, and of course the Ravens defense. And what you said about, I don't know if you brought up the Texans or not, but they lost Demaryius Thomas, who they brought in to shore up the other side of the field with DeAndre Hopkins. Demaryius Thomas is done with the Achilles injury. They have the rookie Kiki QT who can't stay on the field, and Will Fuller's out. I'm really I'm worried about the Texans because before the Demaryius Thomas injury and before the Eagles game, I would have said the Texans are the favorite. But right now they're not. In December, they've given up a ton of production to the opposing quarterbacks and receivers, and they're getting lit up. So,
how about
really
this?
Up in the air.
I still think it's the Chargers as the favorite, and I don't care that they got to play an extra game. The reason I say that is this. The Ravens' defense is really good. They put together a game plan to beat the Chargers. Now, the problem with that is Melvin Gordon hadn't played in almost a month. The game plan was great. But my thing is this. Phillip Rivers is a veteran quarterback. So what you're going to have to do to beat them again, because it looks like the Ravens and Chargers very well could play in the wild card round right away in Baltimore. And the problem is you can't run the same defense again. You've got to figure out another way to stop the Chargers' offense. Now, the question is this. Can they do that? I think John Harbaugh is a great football coach. I think Wink Martindale, his defensive coordinator, is a hell of a football coach. But that's a lot to ask of a staff within a month to put together a game plan to beat an offense as good as this. I mean, you got Mike Williams, and if you get, you got Keenan Allen, who I think is one of the most underrated receivers in football. And really, if Antonio Gates doesn't fumble that ball, guys, the Chargers probably win this game at the end, I think. So I think it's a lot to ask the Ravens to come up with a defense that can hold the Chargers to 10 points again. But what I don't think is difficult to do is ask the Chargers defense, after playing the Ravens, and they only gave up, 15, 16 points to the offense? I don't think it's going to be that much easier for them to play against Lamar Jackson now because they saw him. And the one thing I saw is I think the Chargers played a little bit too much man defense against the Ravens. I think if you play a man defense against a quarterback that can run, you're going to get beat because you're going to turn your back, you're playing man, and even with a spy, an athlete as good as Lamar Jackson is going to just run the ball all over you. So I think if you mix up the zones, give him maybe a blitz with man coverage every once in a while, which I think the Chargers will do. I think you'll stop the Ravens. I will also make this prediction, though. Don't be surprised if Joe Flacco enters one of these games and just tears shit up.
Yeah, I mean, I still subscribe to the theory that defense wins championships. Ravens right now are probably playing as good a defense as anybody in the NFL right now. I mean, and the thing about it, Mike, your comment about can they do it again, after next Sunday, it's one and done.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it again after next Sunday.
Yeah,
you got to do it one time.
What the hell are you talking about? They already did it one time.
Well,
now they've got to do it again, and you can't go in with the same game plan.
Yeah, but I have no idea who's going to come out of the AFC. I mean, it just everybody's got strengths, and every team has flaws. I mean, the Chiefs are fading. The Chargers are inconsistent. The Ravens are lacking a quarterback if they can get in, really, like Anthony said, a winning quarterback. The Colts are maybe not going to get there. The Titans are maybe not going to get there. One of those two are not. You can make an argument for every team. The Patriots, I mean, God, if I'm going to bet on anybody, I'd bet on the Patriots just because while they're not playing the best Patriot football we know in the world of all the years, the 10 years they've been league champs, they still have Belichick and Brady. And those are guys that have been there, done that. And they know how to do that again. And I would not bet against the Patriots being back in the Super Bowl.
Wait a second, though. Wait. Because you got to answer me a question if you're going to say that. New England's defense is not very good. You just said defense wins championships.
Yeah. But talent wins. Talent.
Like we saw Belichick defense give up 40 points and lose the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah. No.
We're talking about getting it.
If this was the case, but I think that the AFC is so wide open that you don't know who's going to peak or who's going to have the good week. Yeah. Right now, I think it's whoever each week who has the good week.
You have to remember, I think the Patriots now get a bye.
Yeah.
So that helps them. And the fact that if they play the Chiefs, Tom Brady's not worried about he's not worried about the Chiefs because they already went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs and won.
Well, also, so you know, Steve, over the last 12 years, the average defensive rank for a team that wins the Super Bowl is like 19th. The average offensive rank for a team that wins the Super Bowl.
I retract my statement.
No, you don't know because I didn't know until I just looked it up. So listen. Now,
the way the NFL is set up right now with the what I call the juiced baseball and corked bat rule that they've got in the NFL, offense is going to win championships this year because the NFL set it up that way. They set this up to be more of a high-scoring game where your quarterbacks are going to be stars. I'm sick and tired of this dadgum protecting of the quarterbacks. I got so sick of the flags of every time a defensive lineman legally hit a quarterback and fell on top of him, they threw a flag. Like, you can't fall on top of it. Well, how the hell?
Hey, you know what, though, Steve? One of the games I was watching yesterday.
Am I going to hit a quarterback and not fall on top of him? How is that going to happen?
Which game was it yesterday
where the
quarterback gets hit?
It's ruining the game.
What happens when he hits him?
The stupid calls they're making.
Okay, just keep talking.
It's just ridiculous.
All right, but the problem I have is this. I would have no problem with that if the rule was enforced the same all the time for every quarterback.
Yep.
Because I also watched a quarterback get hit yesterday, and he got smacked right in the chest.
Well, you know what, Mike?
He goes to the
ground.
Well, fuck it, dude. Just go ahead and talk.
It's a contact sport.
I agree.
Be tough.
Yeah.
Be a man.
All right. Well, how about this? You know what? Maybe
go watch an old Peyton Manning game with the Colts 10 years ago, and then you'll see how the game has changed that much. Even 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
And I'm telling you what.
The same thing.
Here's another thing I'm sick and tired of. I'm sick and tired of running backs lowering their head and hitting with the top of their helmet. We call every defensive player for doing it. We don't call any offensive players.
So you want it called?
Running backs lower their head and lead with their helmet on contact.
I thought you didn't want that called
on the field.
So now you're bitching about it if they call it, and you're bitching about it if they don't call it.
Yeah, they're not consistent.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with all NFL officials.
Lower your helmet and lead and make contact with your helmet. That's a rule. But we let running backs do it all day long. The minute the defensive back does it, and it's a 15-yard penalty. It changes the outcome of a game. I'm sick and tired of penalties changing the outcomes of games, and that's what's happening right now. You're seeing stupid flags thrown, and it's changing. Somebody gets an automatic first down. You could call holding on every single offensive play if you wanted to call holding on every lineman holds every time. You can't block without holding.
Yeah, you can.
And yet they decide when they want to throw a flag. Oh, we want Seattle to win this game. So we're going to chuck a flag here because the Chiefs are making a drive and, you
that happened?
Fan of your team of is how you interpret that. I get that. But the refereeing has gotten so pathetic. And it's these idiot owners that are making stupid rules. And you know what? Here's the deal. Here's what I liken it to. I'm on a tangent right now. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. In the game of golf, Anthony, do you know how many rules there are to the game of golf? Mike, be
No,
quiet. Anthony, do you know how many rules there are?
Not intimately. I've played golf, but not. No, I'm not.
Do you know how many? No, I asked you a question. Do you know how many rules there are?
No, I don't.
There are 34 rules to the game of golf. 34 rules. That's all there is. If you pull out the USGA rule book, there are 34 rules to the game of golf. There are 1,000 and some odd number of decisions, 34 rules. We are now coaching NFL football like we're coaching golf. There are 1,000 decisions on the 34 rules of playing football.
Always
it's
has
getting
been.
stupid.
Always has been.
That's what's happening.
It always has been.
Games are not being won because of talent or MVPs.
Oh, jeez.
Anymore.
I've never seen a
game
game lost because of officials.
Flag or not.
Never seen a game
and then
lost
the
because
idiots
of
sit there and
officials.
talk for 20 minutes and can't decide what the right call is. Then they go watch a video replay for another 20 minutes. In the meantime, I flipped over to watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians again. Because I'm tired of waiting on their stupid decisions.
So what is your problem? Is your problem the officials? Is your problem that you're not allowed to hit a quarterback in the head? Or what is
You're right. Defense is not going to win championships this year because the NFL will forbid it. Because they will protect the offensive players so much that they want the score to be – how many records did we set this year of 51 to 50 games, 38 to 31 games? I mean, really, seriously? Look at the number of high-scoring games the NFL's had this year. It's like the home run shift that started happening when baseball decided, you know what, we're losing audience.
Really? Because
so let's juice the ball,
let's
force the bat.
Hold on. When I look at this, I don't see a dramatic increase in that. I mean, if we look at yesterday's games, 24-10, 27-9.
Last time I checked in the NFL. How many teams are averaging 30 points a game or better in the NFL right now?
I don't know, but all I know is you come to this time of year, there was only like 4 teams yesterday that scored over 30 points.
Well, but what's the average? What's the average for the year?
I don't know, and I don't really care. I mean, all I care about is this. No, what I don't like is this. I think that when you sit there and – so what do you think should be allowed on a quarterback?
Contact. It's football.
What kind of contact? What shouldn't be? What contact should not be allowed on a quarterback?
Then you know what? You should put a red jersey on the quarterback.
All right. Why can't you answer the question? I just ask you, what kind of contact shouldn't be allowed on a quarterback? Should it be
the same contact that's allowed on any other person who's carrying a football?
That's kind of the way it is now. Because my biggest problem is blocking a defenseless player or hitting a defenseless player. Because I think that's a bullshit rule. But I don't think it's a bullshit rule that you can't drive a quarterback into the ground.
You don't drive anybody to the ground. If you
throw your weight on them.
Ground, it's a penalty.
Because I'll tell you what, we haven't seen as many of those penalties anymore. And I know, it's kind of this. It's kind of you get what you had. Wait a second. Whatever. You could get what you had in the 90s. You can say whatever all you want. But, I mean, you just talk for 10 minutes. So, fuck it, we'll change the subject because Stevie wants to talk. So when I look at this, and what I see is this. From the 1970s and 80s, even into the 90s, a lot of guys are dying because we got to watch them get hit. I think when you drive a quarterback into the ground, there's no reason to lift. I think the driving is bullshit, but if you wrap him up and you drive him into the ground, that should be a penalty. I think you should be thrown out of the game for that. Because I can't tell you how many texts. I get at least one text a week from a former player that's been on one of our shows telling me about one of his buddies who just killed himself and the NFL won't give him any money. So that's why I'm never going to sit here and bitch about them protecting the players. What I'm going to sit here and bitch about is when you get a guy that's not driving him into the ground, he's just taking him to the ground, and you expect him to roll off of him, I think that's bullshit. I think the difference is this. I think if you hit a quarterback and you lift him...
Mike. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Because you said pretty much all contact was fine. That's what you said. You said it should be the same as everybody else.
All legal contact is fine. Excuse me for not using the word legal.
No, what you did. I thought it was perfectly fine. But the problem is this. If a wide receiver catches the ball and the DB hits him, picks him up and slams him, that's not a penalty.
Is there a happy medium to where, if you call the penalty to a quarterback that's in the pocket, let's say, because they're a sitting duck, and a lot of them, they're pretty upright compared to another player on the field, but if a quarterback is scrambling or taking off, then it's free range. Is there a happy medium?
Well, I think it is free range until he tries to slide. I mean, if he's running out of the pocket, I haven't seen a penalty for somebody blasting a quarterback like that. I've just seen the penalties when they're in the pocket.
Okay.
They're a sitting duck. And like I said, I've got no problem with you hitting the quarterback however you want. I think they need to stay above the knees and off the head. But other than that, I think it should be free reign. My problem is when guys...
That's not happening. That's not happening.
I think my problem is when guys come in, lift, and drive them into the ground.
That's wrong.
Well, most of these penalties are that. Most of the penalties I've seen have been driving a shoulder into the guy's gut while you're slamming him on the ground, smacking his head off the field. And once again, there's no way to make football safe. I think also, Mike,
one of the things too is we get the benefit. You have to understand too that when you're J.J. Watt chasing down a quarterback,
I completely understand.
You're doing it at real speed without the we see it as spectators. We see it with 12 different angles, camera angles, on 8 different motions and speeds of slow play, replay, like, oh, yeah, at this pace, he could have avoided contact. But at this pace, when we're playing the game football, I'm going to charge as fast as I can. I'm getting in there. I can't avoid him.
I know.
We are judging things based on TV and replay.
I'm not, because I thought I made it pretty freaking simple that if you lift and slam, that's a penalty. Anything other than that should be fine.
All right.
I mean, I don't think you can hit a defenseless player when you're blocking him. I think that's a bullshit rule. But I think what they do is they go beyond and above because they're not willing to pay out the money to take care of these guys. So they're going to pay lip service to it. They're going to over-penalize it and then say, hey, look, we're trying to do something about it when they're not. Yeah. They're just trying to overcompensate for their stupidity.
Right. I'm just saying this is a situation where the NFL owners have gotten together and said, we're not making the game exciting enough for television to sell advertising dollars, so let's protect the offensive players as much as we possibly can, and let's make this a high-scoring game because people want to watch touchdowns. They don't want to watch real football.
You know what I really think it is?
This is where Vince McMahon and the XFL is probably going to kill the NFL.
What I really think is this,
They'll never kill them because the NFL's too big.
Steve, I think this is all about CTE. And I think that they are just trying to make a big show that they're trying to do something so they don't get sued again.
They're trying to avoid paying the players that have CTE by saying we're now going to take care of CTE.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is how we're going to do it.
That's
what they
why
need to do is
I don't
get
think
money
it's.
And take care of the people that have CTE.
Dude, I don't think this is just baseball theory at all. I don't. I mean, if every team was averaging 30 points a game, it would. I think this is more about the NFL trying to make themselves
there still is a talent
good.
pool out there. Some teams don't have enough talent to score 30 points.
Well, with the rules are good enough, you can. So let's talk about one of those teams. The Cincinnati Bengals lost to the Cleveland Browns 26-18. I don't care about that. I wish it would have been worse. But the thing that stood out to me was this. Baker Mayfield throws a touchdown to seal the game, and then he stares at Hugh Jackson for 30 seconds. Now, number one.
That was the highlight of the weekend.
Have you ever seen anything better than that, Anthony? Because I love that.
What's that?
Baker Mayfield staring down Hugh Jackson for 30 seconds after he threw the touchdown pass to win the game.
I think it's, after the first time, I think he was going to follow up with something like this. At this point, to me, it's just Baker Mayfield, and I don't really have an issue with it.
I think Baker Mayfield's the kind of guy that looks for shit to get him pumped up. And there's people like that. But the thing that stood out to me is this, Steve, and I asked you this question, Steve, yesterday when we were talking about it. If Joe Barry Carroll, who was a great player for Purdue in the late 70s, 1980s, would have dunked the ball and then ran back and stared at Bobby Knight for 30 seconds, how many IU players would have taken offense to that and charged his ass?
Well, I'd have led the charge, and there would have been probably 4 or 5 behind me. Or if they're faster than me, they'd have been in front of me by the time we went after him. But he wouldn't have gotten away with it like Baker Mayfield got away with it. Hell, it was so good that the TV station, the cover at CBS, showed an instant replay of it.
Yeah, he walked backwards staring at him for like a minute.
They showed it in slow motion. They went back and showed it in slow motion.
Yeah.
They've been backpedaling and pointing at him. I mean, and they kind of like diagrammed it.
Yeah, and
That's how
the thing about it is this. Hugh Jackson just stood there like a deer in the headlights because that's what he is.
Oh, I know.
And on top of that, nobody on the Bengals sideline took offense. Now, let me go back, maybe a quarter in that game. The Bengals hit Mayfield late, didn't get a penalty. It was borderline. Now, when the Bengal hits Mayfield just a little bit late, there's like 7 Cleveland Browns surrounding the guy. And you get a little bit of a fight. And that's the Cincinnati Bengals problem. They got no fight. They got Marvin Lewis, who just some dipshit, just standing on the sideline collecting a paycheck with his arms folded. You got Hugh Jackson, who's a complete moron. Neither one of them should be in the NFL. Neither one of them deserve to be in the NFL. They are both losers. Their team does not respect them. That is what should get you fired before anything in the world, Anthony. Right now, I'm pretty sure if a fan ran out of the bleachers and punched Marvin Lewis in the face, the rest of the guys would jump in and help him.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I agree.
Which would be awesome.
Hey, yeah. That brings me to another point. And Mike, you and I are on the same page with the Bengals. Or I call them the Bungles.
Shut up.
As long as Marvin Lewis is there, they're going to be the Bungles. Sadly, because I think that's a great sports.
I don't want to hear your shit. Just go ahead. You used to be a Bengals fan, and then you bastardized yourself and went to the Colts.
Question for Anthony. What do we do with Todd Bowles, Anthony?
Fire him.
A great coach.
I don't think
he's got a quarterback. He's got a quarterback who's an up and comer. Do you get rid of him, or do you say, "Look, you paid your dues. You fought. We got you a good quarterback. You're a good, well-respected coach in the NFL." What do you do, Anthony?
I think in a fair world, you give the job back to Todd Bowles, but it's a win-now league, the NFL. And I get that he has a new quarterback, but I think that they're going to try to go after a Mike McCarthy type of coach in New York.
Which means they'll lose. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys.
So McCarthy doesn't go to the Browns? Well, that's my next question, Anthony.
The Jets will pay more money.
Staff intact now?
I think the Jets are going to offer more money to him.
Hey, and this is the thing. Mike McCarthy, and as easily he gets butt hurt, he does not have the thick enough skin to go to New York and be successful. That will blow up within a year or two.
Well, Mike, let me ask you this question. Is Mike McCarthy, is he a good coach, or is he just a brand name?
I think he's a decent coach, put in a right situation, could be successful. I think he showed that. I think at the start in Green Bay, he was successful. And then Aaron Rodgers became bigger than Mike McCarthy. And it makes it really hard to be the head coach in that situation, no matter what. Ask Tyronn Lue. That was just a joke. We all know Tyronn Lue's only attempt at being the head coach in Cleveland was the first 6 games of this year before he got fired. But I think Mike McCarthy has to be in the right place. He's got to have a lot thicker skin. Another place I could see him ending up is Arizona. I think Arizona would fit him better. I think he would have a better chance to succeed in Arizona than he would New York. New York's got better players, but I think Arizona is kind of a small market NFL-wise. I think that he may be able to flourish there. I think he will just catch on fire and burn to death in New York.
Okay, so let me ask you guys another question. I've got like 18 questions here that I wrote down during yesterday. I always take a notepad when I'm watching games and just start writing stupid stuff down, which most of it's stupid stuff, but it's good fodder for discussion. What does Cleveland do with their coaching staff? They leave it alone now, or do they make changes?
They're going to make changes. I think they should leave it alone, but I think they're going to make changes. What do you think, Anthony?
I think that they will make a change, but Greg Williams deserves a shot.
Yeah,
he's paid his dues. He's paid his dues.
And the question is this. If they beat Baltimore this week, does it become impossible to fire him?
I don't think impossible, but a lot more difficult.
Because then you're going to have the entire team behind him, the entire city behind him. And
They're already behind him.
But it's going to be a lot bigger behind him if they're above 500, which they haven't been in almost a decade.
I think the only thing that would protect Greg Williams is if somehow the Browns got into the playoffs.
They can't. It's over with.
Yeah, they're eliminated.
Oh, okay.
They're officially
So I think
eliminated
this,
now.
though, the one thing that could help is Baker Mayfield comes out and says, hey, if you fire him, I don't want to play here no more. I bet that'll keep him in
That's
job.
going to keep him there.
Yeah.
That's the Magic Johnson rule.
So maybe LeBron will call him and explain to him how to run his own team. But,
what if they try to retain, Freddie Kitchens? If they bring in a new head coach and retain Freddie Kitchens, and that could be a disaster because Freddie Kitchens knows what Baker Mayfield. That works. We know this works already, and we also know that Greg Williams is a defensive coach and has nothing to do with that. So Baker Mayfield is a product right now of Freddie Kitchens, and you have to put that together. So that's something that they're going to have to consider.
Yeah, but
John
the new
Dorsey.
coach is probably just going to make Freddie Kitchens the OC anyways. Unless Greg Williams gets a job somewhere else and maybe takes him with him. But I think Freddie Kitchens, the way this is working out, if I'm Freddie Kitchens, I just hook my wagon to Baker Mayfield and let it make me a head coach in the next couple of years.
Do you think there's any chance the Browns go to Freddie Kitchens to be the head coach?
No, because I think what the Browns are going to do is I think the Browns are going to try to get somebody with a name. And when you do that,
I agree.
It's going to fall apart. Because the thing about it is this. You get Freddie Kitchens, who obviously works well with Baker Mayfield. You could say that Greg Williams has nothing to do with that, and I think that's completely false. Because Greg Williams allows Baker Mayfield to play the way he plays. There's a lot of coaches that wouldn't want a guy that's staring down another guy's coach, if you know what I mean. And I think Greg Williams is kind of a crazy guy, a little wild. And the main thing about Greg Williams is he's not afraid to lose. I think the Browns should make him the permanent head coach. I don't know if he'll succeed or fail, but I think it would be a hell of a lot better to bring in Mike McCarthy because, let's face it, over the last 10 years, Mike McCarthy's not gotten along with Aaron Rodgers. What makes you think he's going to get along with Baker Mayfield? It's just like when you brought, who was the dipshit, Todd Haley in. Why would you bring Todd Haley in to school a young quarterback? The last quarterback he worked with, Ben Roethlisberger, is a Hall of Fame quarterback, and Ben Roethlisberger couldn't get along with him. So, I mean, when I look at that, and Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Todd Haley is just a dude that calls some plays. I mean, if they have a problem with each other, I'm going to err on the side that Roethlisberger is right on that.
I saw a rumor over the weekend that there's a chance that Charlie Weiss wants to come back and be a head coach. Do you see? Yeah.
He's not dead from cardiac arrest yet?
That's real. That's real.
Yeah, but you can want to all you want, but you know what they say,
Right.
wish in one hand, take a shit in the other, you ain't got nothing. I don't know if that's really how that goes.
I think Charlie Weiss could end up in Tampa.
That would be perfect because Tampa has a history of hiring guys that aren't worth a damn to coach their football team. Man, I mean, really, is their coach's gear from, Nike now does a lot of this gear, and Nike doesn't make tents that big.
Wow.
I mean, when's the last time Charlie Weiss coached? Last time, I remember he coached at the University of Kansas. He waddled around and won a game or two for a couple of years, and they fired his ass. He is the product of Bill Belichick. That's it. He failed miserably every place else he was as a head coach. And he would fail miserably wherever he goes now.
And I'm seeing Jim Caldwell planning to return.
And Jim Caldwell, he's an average coach at best. And Jim Caldwell's not the guy where I look at him and say, man, if I bring this guy in, he's going to lead us to a Super Bowl. Because he's not that kind of guy. He's a quiet dude, not a lot of personality. To me, Jim Caldwell is the epitome of a coordinator. He's not a head coach. And if we look at this, Josh McDaniels, he's a really good offensive coordinator. But he does not strike me as a head coach. This is the thing. When you walk on a football field or a basketball court, there's two things you can usually pick out right away from looking at the other team. You can pick out their quarterback, and you can pick out their head coach. They could all be dressed the same, and you'll know just by the way they carry themselves who the quarterback is and who the head coach is. I don't think you get that with a guy like Jim Caldwell.
How about Pagano? Pagano's available.
He sucks. Bruce Arians is the guy. No, he did nothing with the Pagano. Yeah, he ran him into the ground. I mean, the worst thing the Colts ever did was to fire Bruce, or to get rid of Bruce Arians and keep Pagano.
Let Bruce Arians go when he's the interim coach, yeah.
Yeah. They couldn't get rid of him because of politically, you got to keep the guy that had cancer. And I'm not trying to be mean with that. Bruce Arians is a really good football
coach. No, I know you're not. No,
Bruce
you're right.
Arians,
You're actually right, though. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
you know what, though?
They played the sympathy card.
Hey, this is the thing. Bruce Arians in Cleveland would be perfect with Baker Mayfield.
Well,
then if you put Bruce Arians there, Greg Williams might stay as the defensive coordinator, Kitchens is the OC, and you've got a hell of a coaching staff.
Anthony, did I not hear that rumor, too, that Arians was considering that? Was it Cleveland? Did I not hear somewhere or read it on Twitter or something that there was a consideration that Arians might come back to coaching?
Yes, I did see that. I'm trying to find it right now.
What's the validation on that? What's your validation on that?
Let's see.
That's a good word, validation.
That's a great word.
That's a great word. I'm having a good day.
I know. And really, it sounded like you were...
the Cleveland Jobs Brown would entice him to come back, and that's what I'm reading from a Yahoo report back on November 6th.
Is that a good fit?
Perfect. Absolutely
Mike, is that
perfect.
A good fit?
It's perfect. I mean, Bruce Arians is one of the most imaginative offensive coaches in football. You put him with Baker Mayfield, and Arians is the one that was the quarterback's coach that brought up Big Ben. He has a history of developing quarterbacks. It's not like he's John Gruden, who never developed a quarterback in his freaking life. I mean, John Gruden had over a decade to develop a quarterback in Tampa Bay, never did it. Oakland, he didn't develop Rich Gannon. He just got lucky because Rich Gannon figured it out for a couple years in his 30s, which saved Gruden's ass. But Bruce Arians is a real deal. And also, Carson Palmer became much better under Bruce Arians.
I think we should get Fansided and the Grilling Truth. And if you can get the fan side of your people on board, I can get our people
Anthony
on board.
Doesn't have fan-sided people. What the hell are you talking about? You're thinking of our basketball guy.
Oh, that's the basketball guy.
Yeah, we don't have anything to
right.
do with fan-sided. Screw fan-sided. They ain't shit.
We don't?
Go ahead. No.
Different sides. Okay. We should start a campaign to get Arians as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. I think that'd
Arians
be fun.
has already started that campaign.
Well, let's
sounds like
back
a
him.
November 6th from what Anthony said.
Let's back him.
I thought I just did. And I'm sure the Cleveland Browns will care what we said.
Okay,
All
enough of the coaching. Let me change tacks here and create some angst for Mike and some joy for Anthony. I think the Cowboys are the most dangerous team in the NFC right now.
Seattle.
They scare me.
They don't me.
I
They
think
have not
Cowboys.
played well.
Cowboys have more talent. Cowboys have
Seattle?
all the talent in the world.
That's Seattle. Okay.
Yeah.
I think You think Seattle has more talent than the Cowboys, Mike? Seriously?
They got Russell.
I mean, I'm going to
Wilson.
let Anthony argue this one because
They got
there's
Russell
no way the Seahawks
Wilson.
have as much talent as the Cowboys.
Dude, if Dallas plays Seattle, Dallas has more talent. But Russell Wilson plays for Seattle.
Yeah, well, that's one player going against Ezekiel Elliott.
Russell
going against
Wilson.
Amari
Listen, the
Cooper.
Cowboys
Don't give me
have-
that shit
the
because you're the
Cowboys
same
have-
one that thinks the
defensive line.
Patriots can win it because they got Tom Brady.
The Cowboys are going to have 2 weeks to get healthy for the wild card weekend.
Yeah.
Their offensive line's
think
banged up. They're going to get healthier. We're just starting to see Gallup, the rookie wide receiver. He's the one who had the big play touchdown yesterday. It wasn't Amari Cooper. So now we're starting to see other players step up. The defense.
Anthony, I'm in your camp.
I think Seattle and Dallas. I think one of those teams will go to the Super Bowl from the NFC.
I'm beginning to believe that too. I'm beginning to believe
That's
that.
cute. You guys are so cute together.
Dallas is dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry
they're
Jones
dangerous.
has been quiet. You haven't heard any mouthing
I know.
off of him.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen
Jason
Garrett make any
coaches
stupid
their
move.
football team. The extra week
All
will
that has
hurt
to
them.
happen. All that has to happen if Dak Prescott gets hot. If he figures it out for 4 games, all he has to do. If he figures it out for 4 games, like Blake Bortles did last year. Blake Bortles figured it out for 3 games, so 3.5 games. He figured it out. All Dak needs is 4 games, and they're hoisting up Lombardi.
Blake Bortles threw for like 120 yards in their first playoff win against Buffalo, 10-3.
Yeah, but he had a couple of key runs because he's a
Hold
running
on.
quarterback.
I know, but the point is this. They beat a bad Buffalo Bills team. They beat a horrible Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And then they got beat by the Patriots. And they played 2 games like that, not 4. And you still have...
About December. Blake Bortles is putting up 300 yards a game and 3 touchdowns and a pick.
Did he? Good for him.
Last December, absolutely did.
Wait a second.
Absolutely did.
I'm sorry, but Dak Prescott always plays better than Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles' team had a great defense, just like the Cowboys. But your problem is this. Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett is a poor coach. The easiest way to tell a poor coach...
He's been neutral. He's neutral right now.
He's neutral, huh?
He's not making bad moves.
Division titles for 3 years. I'll take it.
They've neutralized him.
He's what?
I said 2 division titles in the past 3 years.
Okay, Marvin Lewis won 5 in a row, so you think he's a good coach?
Well,
no, we don't.
No. So doing that doesn't mean shit. The thing that makes you a great coach is the ability to win in the playoffs.
I knew it angst you. I knew it would angst you, Mike, but I think Dallas is very dangerous. That's a dangerous football team. You don't want to play that team.
They're dangerous. I mean, you know what? Maybe they'll score some points at some point. I mean, hell, they didn't get... Tampa Bay has the worst defense in football. And they held them under 3 touchdowns. That's a problem. Dallas...
You know, you say about Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, and all these other quarterbacks, they figure out a way to win. Dak Prescott figures out ways to win.
When he lost to Green Bay in the playoffs at home.
How about the first down conversion against the Saints to lock the game up in the fourth quarter when he willed his way to get that first down?
That was a regular season.
How many opportunities? He's been in the league 3 years, had 1 playoff game.
Well, if he's been in the league,
Rodgers, it was an Aaron Rodgers magical play to Jared Cook that won that game.
Huh? What are we
Back
talking
in
about?
2 years ago, with the Cowboys year, that play in Green Bay.
Yeah.
That was
you go, Anthony.
They
you
made
go,
the
Anthony.
play.
I'm in your camp, buddy.
They made the play.
I'm
sorry. But when I am the divisional champion and I don't have to play a wild card game and I'm playing a team that's a wild card team, I expect to be able to beat them fairly handily. The defense for the Cowboys that year fell apart. They gave up, 38 points? What's Jason Garrett's playoff record?
This is a different defense.
What's Jason Garrett's playoff record?
Probably not good. 500, below 500. Maybe I think he's won 1 game with Romo.
Yeah, and the 1 game he won in the playoffs, he shouldn't have. That was the Calvin Johnson call.
I'm telling you, you can't gauge this Cowboys team by the rest of them.
What you can gauge is this. You can gauge. Wait a second, because Steve, you're the one that told me coaching and playing in a playoff situation is entirely different. And it is.
Yeah, well,
and from what we've seen, he has failed. And you can kiss Anthony's ass all you want. But it doesn't change the fact that the Dallas Cowboys are 9-6?
And on a rocket ship right now.
They're on a rocket ship? They fucking got shut out last week, Steve. They just beat the freaking Tampa Bay Buccaneers by a touchdown. How are they on a rocket ship? How can you be on a rocket ship when you lost 23-0?
Whoa! Hold on a second. Didn't the Saints just beat the Buccaneers by a touchdown?
No, they beat them by double digits. They beat them 28-14.
Okay, so what was the score of the Dallas game?
27-20.
27-20. Looking at it right now.
So actually, if Tampa Bay gets the stop at the end of the game, they get a chance to tie. They got beat by 2 touchdowns by the Saints. And they didn't need a defensive touchdown to do it. They actually scored 4 touchdowns.
Telling you, Mike,
So defensive touchdowns count less or more?
They do when my problem is this.
A win's a win.
You got to score points on offense to win the game. Defensive touchdowns usually don't do you much good. I can tell you this. I talked a lot about the Bears this year. I guarantee you this. The Bears will be a team that goes from 11 or 12 wins this year to 6 wins next year. They're not going to get better.
Who?
They're going to get worse.
Yeah,
the Bears.
The Saints, 12-9. 2 weeks ago, Monday Night Football, 12-9. Carolina Panthers, bad team.
Better than Tampa Bay.
Really?
They're not.
Not really.
Cam Newton with a half an arm?
They're about pretty even.
It doesn't matter. The point is this. I watched the Saints beat the Steelers yesterday.
That's the dumbest thing you said all day.
What's stupid is this. What's stupid is the fact that I have not seen the Cowboys, other than the Saints team, beat a good football team, have they?
I'm just telling you, they're
Have
dangerous.
They? Are we going to answer that
That's
question?
not a team you don't want to take on that much talent.
The Redskins.
What?
That
Redskins
team's got a lot of talent.
The
Division
Redskins
wins are
suck.
tough.
The Redskins are a shitty team. That entire division is shit until Nick Foles started playing for the Eagles.
You know who scares me the most about the Cowboys?
Oh, God.
A kid I coached in basketball.
The fact that they got shut out by the
Southeastern
Colts.
High School.
Got shut out by the Colts.
I love Randy Gregory. Randy Gregory's a wacky nut. He scares the crap out of anybody. You don't know what that idiot's going to do.
I'll give you this. If you look at teams that'll be in the playoffs, the Cowboys lost by double digits to the Seahawks. They lost to Houston. They got beat by 2 touchdowns at home to the Titans. They beat the Saints. That's the only playoff teams they've played. Now, my problem with it is this. When they played Seattle, they scored 13. When they played the Texans, they scored 16. When they played the Cowboys, they had 14. That was not before Amari Cooper. And then
he was on a team for a day. Okay.
Oh,
hey,
okay.
Hey,
well,
Anthony.
You're right. A wide
Anthony?
receiver can't figure it out. Wait. Hold on. Against the next playoff team they played was the Saints. They beat them, but they only scored 13 points. Does anybody really believe they could win 13-10 in New Orleans? I don't think that's possible. Then the next playoff team, possible playoff team they played was the Cowboys. And I know Amari Cooper was hurt, but they lost 23-0. Oh, wait, Amari Cooper wasn't hurt. He played the whole game. Shit, my bad. So when I look at this, my whole point of this is every time they play a playoff team, they're not scoring more than 16 points. I don't think they can score enough points. You can have all the defense in the world. Defense does win championships to a point, but you have to be able to score points. And when you look at Amari Cooper against the Colts, you got 4 receptions for 32 yards. You look at Dak Prescott, 200 yards, an interception, no touchdowns. I mean, when you go look at the Cowboys-Saints game, I mean, their defense won them the game, which is fine. I just don't think your defense is going to hold Drew Brees in a playoff home game to that many points. And the thing is, Dak Prescott was 24 for 28, and they still only scored 1 offensive touchdown. Ezekiel Elliott was held to 3.3 yards per carry. That's only going to get worse at New Orleans. It's not going to get better.
Anthony, and to the point here, Anthony, here's the deal. I got to give Mike credit because he is a football coach. I think the problem with Mike is that he never coached or didn't have any success in the playoffs. He doesn't understand the playoffs change from regular season.
I didn't have any
and
success
the mentality
in the playoffs, huh?
No, I don't think so.
Well, my playoff record is 14-3, but that is pretty bad because I did lose 3 games in playoff games. So you're right. 14-3 is pretty shitty. I'm no Jason Garrett. What's your next question, dumbass?
My next question is this. All right, I think the Cowboys are dangerous. Anthony, I'm in your camp. I don't want to play them. Okay, here's my next question, Anthony. Do the Eagles have a quarterback situation here? What are they going to do?
I did a Twitter poll yesterday to get people's opinions, and it was, does the Eagles have a quarterback situation? It was Nick Foles, Carson Wentz, or, this is a stupid question, basically. And Nick Foles dominated the votes, and then the other votes were split between this is a stupid question and Carson Wentz. So the Philly fans, I'm assuming, I don't see them chiming in to defend their guy, Carson Wentz. So I think there is a situation, but I don't think anything's going to get done about it because Nick Foles is a free agent.
I will go back to what I said at the start of the year and what I said at the end of last year. Nick Foles is better. That's it. Carson Wentz, Jared Goff are not that good. Neither one of them are. Neither of them will ever be. My prediction with the Rams is this. A couple years from now, the Rams will be trying to draft a quarterback. They'll have lost every big-time player they signed. Their lack of depth now will turn them into a shitty team. And when they move into their new glass house, there's going to be a lot of people throwing stones and breaking it. That's just my opinion. because Jared Goff is not that good. I put it like this. Jared Goff, Carson Wentz are nowhere near as good as Dak Prescott.
So, Anthony, what, in your opinion, what do the Eagles do?
I think that they're going to hold on to Wentz because the only chance that they have to justify moving on from Wentz is re-signing Foles and trying to get top draft capital back.
And you can get a couple first-round picks for Wentz just off of last year's first 11 games. But Wentz is also the other concern is this: Wentz is injury-prone. It's every year, and I think his junior or senior year in college, his team won the national championship. He didn't even play because he was hurt, and he gets hurt a lot. And if they continue along with, Carson Wentz, you saw their one Super Bowl win last year. That was it, because it's never going to happen again with Carson Wentz at the helm.
Carson Wentz wasn't even at the helm. It was Foles.
No, I just said it will never happen even once with Carson Wentz at the helm.
Oh, I agree. I'm not a big Wentz guy, and that's not because I'm a Cowboys fan. I like the way Nick Foles plays with this Eagles offense.
He's a better leader. I mean, you see him getting in people's asses a little bit. You see him talking a little bit. Carson Wentz, to me, just does not have the personality to be a big-time quarterback.
Do you kind of get the impression, guys, and again, you guys are both smarter at football than I could ever be. You kind of get the impression the team kind of gets behind Foles a little more than Wentz.
That's what I'm talking about, leadership. That's leadership.
Yeah, talk about it.
He's a better leader. I think I did talk about it. I mean, when you watch him play, Nick Foles walks on the field like he owns the place. Carson Wentz walks on the field like it's owed to him.
Like he doesn't want to get hurt.
Like it's owed to him. I mean, he's the pampered one. Nick Foles has had to fight, scratch, and claw for everything he's gotten. And I don't think that it's any coincidence that when you look at the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, the majority were not number one picks. Joe Montana was drafted in the 3rd round. Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. Johnny Unitas was the 18th round and played semi-pro football before he got there. I think there's a lot to be said for having to work your ass off for it. I'm a Bengals fan. The 3 best quarterbacks in Bengals history: Anderson, 3rd round pick; Esiason, 2nd round pick; Dalton, 2nd round pick. I think there's something to be said for it. And it's just like, it drives me nuts. I don't know. I don't think it was you. I had this conversation with somebody last night. But if you're a fan of a team and you hope they lose so you get a better draft pick, you're a dumbass. Because it doesn't matter where you pick. It matters what you pick. And the prevailing opinion is this: if you're picking in the top 10 every year, well, it doesn't matter where you pick because your team sucks at drafting.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cleveland Browns drafted in the top 10 for a decade and sucked.
Mike, you and I had this conversation on either live or on texting back and forth. I can't remember. For Nick Foles, where does he go? You already said you know where you think he's got to go.
Oh, Nick Foles, I think Jacksonville would work perfect.
Jacksonville. Yeah. What a fit.
There's got to be other places. Who else doesn't have a quarterback? There's a lot of people that don't have
Miami.
a quarterback. Miami would be perfect.
They're likely going to
remember this
Ryan
too.
Tannehill.
The way it sounds, Joe Flacco's available too. So there's 2 guys there that one's won a Super Bowl and been the MVP, and the other one, has taken his team to the Super Bowl, and there's 2 legit guys that could play right away. You got Miami that needs a quarterback. Jacksonville needs a quarterback. What about Washington?
Yeah, with Alex Smith, I was also thinking, you never know what's going to go on with the Giants. And what about Case Keenum? There's no guarantee Case Keenum's coming back to Denver because they're going to fire Vance Joseph.
Well,
and this new coach may not want to work with Case Keenum.
Well, I can tell you this. The New York Giants have their quarterback, Eli Manning. They're fine with him. I don't know why everybody freaks out. The guy is a Hall of Fame quarterback. What's funny about it? Seriously, tell me what's wrong with him.
I just think they need to move on. I think they should have moved on 2 years ago.
Really? So what would have been different if they'd have moved on 2 years ago? Because the extenuating problem here is their offensive line. It's not their quarterback. I mean, yesterday, Eli Manning was 25 for 33, 309 yards. and damn near beat the Colts in Indianapolis in a meaningless game.
Right.
Right now, the New York Giants have Barkley to hand the ball off to. They got Shepard. They got Beckham when he's back. Ingram. They got offensive weapons out the ass. Defensively, they need to improve. Their offensive line got a little bit better this year, but with an
I like
offensive
Eli
line,
Manning a lot, but I think he's done.
He's not done. Because guys that are
agree with you
done
there.
do not play the way he's played the last month, which hasn't been bad.
He basically played luck head-to-head for the whole game. I mean, you know, their stats and the way they both ran their offenses, basically, I think Manning outplayed him for three-quarters of the game. Or the team, you know, he led his team three-quarters, and then, you know, Andrew comes up and they get some breaks and they get the win. But that's a game the Colts probably shouldn't have won. They didn't play well enough to win that game. They just won it. You know, and that's a good thing for me being a Colts fan and wanting to see them in the playoffs. But I think the Giants outplayed the Colts Sunday.
Yeah, and he can still play. I think it's crazy to think he can't. I mean,
Yeah,
because
I
it's
agree,
not
Mike.
like he just had 2 good games this year. I mean, right now, this year, his stats on a 5-10 team with no offensive line is he's completed 67% of his passes, 4,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. There are like 20 teams in the NFL that would kill to have a quarterback that could do that.
All right.
Including Jacksonville and Miami.
Yeah. And if you look at his numbers this year, I mean, you've only had 2 games where he's thrown more than 1 pick, and that was 2 picks. I just don't see why everybody's on his ass so much. I mean, this team was ruined by a front office that drafted poorly. When you look at him last year,
so you think they're 2 offensive linemen away from a Super Bowl?
I think they're 2 offensive linemen away from winning the NFC East. Because Eli Manning, in a one-and-done situation, gets it done, just like Joe Flacco does. The only thing is that this is the thing. If you look at his stats over the last few years, everybody said he sucks. Last year, 62%, 19 touchdowns, 13 picks. The year before that, 26-16. The year before that, 35-14. The year before that, 30-14. His one bad year was in 2013. You know, before that, he won 2 Super Bowls. But when you look at it, his touchdown interception over the last 4 years is 2-1. Or 5 years is 2-1 with a 64% completion percentage. I don't see how this is his fault. I do not see what other people see with him. I'm sorry. I watched this man lead 2 drives to win Super Bowls. One was a lucky catch. But if you remember in the other one, he makes a throw down the left sideline that's as perfect as I've ever seen in a huge game. He can play. He is the best Manning to ever play quarterback in the NFL because when the shit is down, he gets it done. And if you look at his first 5 years, he threw more interceptions than he did the last 5. This is a product of a front office that is not drafted wisely. They drafted Eric Flowers. You know, when people talk about when you draft the wrong quarterback, it sets you back 3 to 5 years. When you draft a left tackle that's supposed to be in the top 10 or 12 picks, it's supposed to be the protector for your quarterback, you set yourself back 3 years right there. They need offensive linemen. They need to upgrade the defense, but you give him an offensive line. I mean, this is a guy 2 years ago had him in the playoffs. You know, and last year on a 3-12 team, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. To me, that's a guy who's playing with not enough around him. Not that he's too old. But that's just my opinion. I like him. I think he can play. I think he's tough as shit. And if you told me right now, you get Aaron Rodgers or Eli Manning to play the Super Bowl with, I'll play it with Eli Manning every day of the week. Yeah, get out of here. Yeah. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He beat Tom Brady twice. That's it. Aaron Rodgers loses
Anthony,
in the
He was in his
playoffs.
okay.
He wasn't what?
He was in his 20s. He's 37. He's 38.
Yeah. What's Aaron? Oh, Aaron Rodgers. How old's Aaron Rodgers?
Eli Manning.
What?
And Eli Manning is not playing at the level
I don't
of
give a
Drew
shit.
Brees.
It's one game. It's
Drew
one
Brees.
game. I hate to tell you this, but for one game, I take Tom Brady over Aaron Rodgers, and he's 41. It's one game. But this is the thing. That one game.
Tom Brady,
That
you're two
one
different
game.
teams.
that one game, it doesn't matter what team it is, I will take Tom Brady at 41 or Eli Manning at 40 over Aaron Rodgers at any age in a one-game situation, because in a one-game situation, outside of Joe Montana, there ain't never been anybody better. And there is a difference between being a quarterback in a big game and being a quarterback in the regular season. You know, anybody can play great in the regular season, no pressure. But when you get in a playoff situation, you know, people talk shit about Joe Flacco.
You still got to get there. Eli still got to get there.
Okay, well, maybe give Eli a team. Wait a second. Eli got to the playoffs 2 years ago. The teams he's had the last 5 years have been horrible. So you disagree with that? I mean, his offensive line has been atrocious.
It has.
Okay, this is the thing. This year, wait a second. This year, Eli Manning has been sacked 46 times. Eli Manning has been sacked an average of 42 times each of the last 5 years. You can't win like that. No matter who you are, you can't win like that. Because it's just like I talked about Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson. I think they make their teams 8 or 9 wins just by showing up. But you put them on their back 46 times. That's an average of almost 3 times a game. That means that you're probably giving up 2 or 3 times as many quarterback pressures. How do you expect him to win like that? But I can also tell you this. I watched him beat Tom Brady in 2 Super Bowls. And in both of those Super Bowls, he led game-winning drives. Never seen Aaron Rodgers do that. I don't remember a whole bunch of Aaron Rodgers game-winning drives in the playoffs. I remember Aaron Rodgers shitting his pants against Seattle a few years ago, where they had the big lead and then he couldn't complete a pass in the fourth quarter. But let's face it, we're not talking about who the better quarterback is. We're talking about who the better leader is when you get to the playoffs. And Eli Manning is the better leader. Eli Manning is a tough son of a bitch. Eli Manning doesn't sit there bitch and whine and cry about everything like Aaron Rodgers does. Aaron Rodgers is a baby. Dan Marino was a baby. That's why when they played the Joe Montanas and the Tom Bradys or the Eli Mannings, that's why they came up short. The difference in the playoffs and regular season is how much balls you got, what kind of leader you are. And Eli Manning has that in spades all over Aaron Rodgers.
I don't know. I wouldn't do it. Not now. Not in 2018.
Dude, all I know is this. This year, they're both on shitty teams, and they got about the same record. But you know what? If you told them all of a sudden we're going to have you guys play in the NFC Championship game, Eli Manning will beat Aaron Rodgers' ass. Go ahead, Steve. Next question.
Mike, I so in your camp on this, as much as I'm in Anthony's camp on the Cowboys, I think Aaron Rodgers is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL right now. People think that he's a god, and I'm going to tell you what, he's average. He now, like I said, I go back to he's become a big play Ray.
I disagree with that.
Games.
I believe he's what he's always been. You'll have
another Monday Night Football game where Aaron Rodgers will step up and throw for 500 yards and have the game of his life, and then the team will still fail miserably. The Packers are going to fail now.
Steve, he's the same guy he always was. The team around him's not as good.
He's always overrated.
Not that old. He's always been overrated when it comes to getting into the playoffs and what happens, just like Brett Favre. Brett Favre wouldn't make a pimple on Bart Starr's ass, and neither does Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it to me, it smacks of the love affair that the world has with the Green Bay Packers, because they're the oldest football team, they're celebrating their 100th year, and we all think that any quarterback that plays for the Packers is magical.
I don't. Don Majkowski.
Favre and Rodgers are both products of that mentality.
Don Majkowski was magic, though. Because his name was Magic Man. Don Majkowski was magic. His nickname was Magic Man.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bart Starr was magical, but after that,
his name wasn't
it became...
Magic. Go ahead. All right, let's see. What do you got next?
I'm kind of out of questions here, guys. Believe it or not, I've kind of blasted through these. I mean, what else we got to talk about? Anthony, what do you want to bring up?
I feel like we covered a lot. I mean, I wanted to talk about the Texans, and we did that earlier.
Yeah, I think we kind of got through everything by just using Steve's
questions.
questions.
We did. Okay, so let me ask real quick. Let's just do a quick radio poll. Who comes out of the AFC to the Super Bowl right now? Mike?
Chargers.
Who comes out?
Chargers.
Anthony?
Right. Considering that they have a home playoff game, I'm going to go with New England.
I'm going to go with the Patriots.
That bye killed that. That's it. That getting that bye.
I'm not willing to bet. I think this is the last year I can pick the Patriots. I think this is the last year you can do it. But I just don't think – I don't want to screw with Belichick and Brady in the playoff situation. It's a different cat.
This is this is going to be it for the I'm seeing rumors that coaches are going to leave New England after this season. So this could be it.
Yeah.
This could be it. Whether they win, lose, or draw, this could be it.
How about this? Don't be surprised if they win it if Tom Brady retires.
Well, you know what? If I had Giselle Bunch sitting at my house all day long with my kids, I'd probably retire too.
I was talking to Giselle the other night, and she said that she's pushing it. So we'll see what happens.
She makes 5 times the money he makes.
No, she only makes.
He can be a stay-at-home dad real quick.
She only makes twice the money he makes. Together, they make like $120 million. But
she's a billionaire.
What else you got, Steve?
That's all I got. I'm done. I've yacked enough.
Who comes out of the NFC, Anthony?
I want to say Dallas, but realistically, probably I'm going to go Seattle. Realistically, I think Seattle, if they could keep this going, I think they go to the Super Bowl.
All right. I still think it's New Orleans and the Chargers. I'm not going to change my pick from week 1. What do you think, Steve?
I can't bet against New Orleans. I'd like to see Dallas just because I just Dallas scares the crap out of me. Seattle, I just don't think it's strong enough, but I just don't think New Orleans is just too well coached, too well put together, and they've had too good of a year. And Drew Brees is just a great quarterback. I don't see Dallas screwing up from this point forward.
All right.
New Orleans screwing up.
I still like the Saints and Chargers, but what the hell do I know? All right, guys.
I like Saints and Pats.
Tomorrow, Christmas Day, me and Steve are still going to be here live. We don't know what we're talking about, but we're going to talk about something. And we're going to argue about something. Maybe we'll talk about NASCAR, but we won't. Or maybe we'll talk about soccer. Better chance we'll talk about NASCAR. But make sure you check us out tomorrow, Christmas morning at noon. It'll be 9 at Steve's house. So what we're going to do is Steve will unwrap his presents on air. Does that sound good, Steve?
I don't get presents. I get coal.
Yeah. I thought your son's name was different than Cole. Oh, okay. You mean coal, like the black coal.
Texas I get black coal, yeah. I don't. I get sticks and coal. I don't get presents.
I thought your son's name was Ross, not Cole. But all right.
It is.
Okay. It's Cole. All right, here we go. We're going to wrap the show up now, Steve. Do you have anything
Then we're
to
back
say?
next week for another Panic
We'll
Monday?
be back. Wait a second. We'll be back Wednesday with Angelo. How do you say it? Pizzo?
Yeah, is it Pizzo? Yeah, from the creator of Hoosiers, the movie Hoosiers.
Hoosiers and Rudy, the producer of Hoosiers and Rudy, will be here Wednesday at noon for a special show. Wednesday night, myself, Steve, Colin Hartman will be back with an Indiana Basketball Weekly show. Thursday, we got Brian Ralph from Fansided, the Busting Brackets site. We will talk a little bit of college basketball, And then, of course, Friday, we'll have Friday Football Frenzy. We'll have a special guest on there to pick the games. Anthony lost to us. He's one of the 16 people that have fallen to us so far. Me and Steve will be going for a perfect season coming up this next week.
And these guys call themselves geniuses, Mike. I know nothing about football.
Especially Ed Biles. Ed Biles was the head coach for the Houston Oilers, came on, Anthony. He was talking mass shit. Said that, Steve was like a girl because he played basketball and they wear little shorts and a tank top. And then Steve smacked that ass. But, all right, guys. If you want to see Steve smack some more ass, join us again tomorrow.
And
On the
Anthony,
Grilling
you'll be
Truth
back next
Special.
week, right? You're staying with us, aren't you, buddy?
Yes,
we
I
didn't
will.
run you off, did we?
No. Are we going through the playoffs, or is this
Hell
it?
yeah, we're going through the playoffs.
No, we're going.
Playoffs?
We can just keep going all summer long. We got to start talking OTAs and
Because I go all off season.
Yeah, we got
On
the
my
NFL
show.
draft. The NFL draft does
Yeah,
as
we
big
got
a
the
numbers
draft,
for us
we
as
got
a regular.
OTAs.
Well, I did the draft with
NFL
you last
doesn't
year,
die.
right?
Did
I
you
was
do the,
doing
yeah,
the live-
you and Dan both did the draft show
Yes,
with us.
yes.
Maybe we'll include Steve in it if he could learn how to read so he could read about some of the players and watch some film. You could do the live draft show, Steve.
You know what? That's usually they do the Kardashian marathon at the same time as they do the draft, and I can't miss the Kardashian marathon. That's
right.
ETV. That's like 24 unabashed hours of keeping up with the Kardashians.
Man, that
That's
is
much
like
better than
3
the NFL
boxes of
draft to me.
tissue for Steve, too, Anthony.
Well, you know what? Because when I watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, I learn more about the NBA.
Yes, you do. You do.
All right, that was fun.
That is awesome. Yes. The Kardashians teach Steve about the NBA, which is why we don't talk a lot of NBA on our show. Remember, you can follow us at Grilling Truth. Where can they find the FF Face-Off on Twitter at, Anthony?
You can follow the show at the FF Face-Off, or follow me at The Real NFL Guru.
You can follow Steve Risley at SRisley34, also at Survive the Magic. You can follow myself and everybody at the Grilling Truth at Grilling Truth. Make sure you hit our Facebook page up. Also, if you can go to iTunes and give us a review, we'd appreciate it. Just act like Steve.
Hey, Mike.
What?
Mike,
What?
can I talk about my NFL fantasy?
Does it include a Kardashian, an NBA
my
player,
NFL
and Drew
fantasy?
Brees? What?
No, here's my NFL fantasy. Colts and Cowboys in a Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, because you already beat them. And
We
the Saints
wouldn't
beat
even
the
need
shit out of
you. Anthony and I just do the show on our own. You can just take the day off.
Because neither one of you know what you're looking at, especially you, Steve. Anthony looks like he's probably played football. Steve just likes to talk about when he played, which was like pre-helmet era football.
Yeah, I played flag football.
The ball was like 5 feet around.
I was a chicken crap quarterback. I was a protected one.
You were 6'8". That's an unfair advantage too.
Yeah, 6'8", about 130 pounds at that point in my life before my wife learned how to cook meatloaf.
Okay. All right, we're going to get off the show now.
Goodbye.
All right. Remember, you can hear us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Anthony Cervino, Steve Risley, who we're going to call Meatloaf from now on, I'm Mike Goodpaster. We've been listening to The Grueling Truth. Where the
like a bat out of hell, baby. Like a bat out of hell.
Hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.